The opportunity for Africa is now. With the largest free trade area in the world now operational, the continent's 1.3 billion people are in a prime position to benefit from the immense opportunities to trade, deepen economic integration, and revolutionize the continent through a single continental market for goods and services. Coupled with free movement of persons and the opening up of investment opportunities, the stage is set for accelerating the operation of the AfCFTA. From its launch in March 2018 in Kigali, Rwanda, where 44 African member states committed to the African Union's Agenda 2063 flagship project to deepen integration, 54 member states are now signatory to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is estimated to bring about a combined gross domestic product of around $3.4 trillion for African countries. Beyond the signing of the agreement and expressions of commitments, trading and operationalisation got underway on the 1st of January 2021 as an important sign of commitment by African member states. While trading kicked off in a limited form due to delays brought on by the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, it signals hope for increased trade and investments in a wide array of areas, such as manufacturing, agriculture, services, and e-commerce.
For a continent like ours, the non-tariff barriers, various studies have shown even more important than bringing down the tariffs. So you do need to have a reporting system. This website has been set up. So, these are all parts of the whole. It's almost like a jigsaw. You need to make sure that you have all the pieces and all the pieces are coming together.
As the largest free trade area in the world, the AfCFTA is underpinned by the institutional framework and structure for its implementation, consisting of the Assembly of Heads of State, the Council of Ministers, the Committee of Senior Trade Officials, the Regional Economic Communities, and the AfCFTA Secretariat, which is headquartered in Accra, Ghana. The AfCFTA is creating a new dynamic, offering entrepreneurs and policymakers alike opportunities to improve the business climate, increase productivity, and see improved access to markets across the continent and globally. Pilot trading under the AfCFTA framework has already begun with several countries, including Rwanda, Cameroon, Egypt, Ghana, Kenya, Mauritius, and Tanzania. To advance the AfCFTA, the African Union, the AfCFTA Secretariat, and finance partners created a platform known as the Intra-African Trade Forum, aimed at promoting trade under the AfCFTA. In 2021, the inaugural forum was held in Durban, South Africa, and connected tens of thousands of buyers and sellers under the AfCFTA umbrella. Stakeholders shared trade, investment, and market information, as well as trade finance and trade facilitation solutions designed to support intra-African trade and the economic integration of the continent. The IATF 2023 held in Cairo is estimated to have generated a record $43 billion in trade and trade investment related deals, according to the IATF Advisory Council, based on data submitted by trade promotion agencies including Nigeria and South Africa.
The intra-African trade fair is one strong implementation instrument. And with the AfCFTA, what we now call the intra-African trade fair, we call it the AfCFTA marketplace. That has become the largest single gathering where intra-African trade and investment deals can be made. And that is where they are able to attract investment. We expect we will achieve new heights, especially in the context of today's world, where deglobalization has accelerated and countries and regions are building regional value chains.
So with the operationalisation of the AfCFTA now a reality, how exactly is the architecture of the agreement and its related protocols and instruments facilitating an on-the-ground smooth transition to the world's largest free trade area? The operational AfCFTA agreement is underpinned by 8 specific protocols. The Protocol on Trade in Goods, the Protocol on Trade in Services, the Protocol on Investment, the Protocol on Rules and Procedure on the Settlement of Disputes, the Protocol on Intellectual Property Rights, the Protocol on Competition Policy, the Protocol on Digital Trade, and the Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade.
We have seen 3 new protocols come on stream this year, the Investment Protocol, the Competition Policy Protocol, and the Intellectual Property Rights Protocol. So I think that signals that the political will is there, and technical areas where there are still hesitations, that those could be overcome.
In addition to the protocols to facilitate the AfCFTA, 5 operational instruments are also geared at making the AfCFTA more robust in purpose. The AfCFTA Rules of Origin, the AfCFTA Schedule on Tariff Concessions, the African Trade Observatory, the AfCFTA Online Mechanism for Reporting, Monitoring and Eliminating of Non-Tariff Barriers, and the Pan-African Payment Settlement System. Interpretation and application of the AfCFTA's respective protocols and annexes could be a source of varied disputes by member states and private sector players. To mitigate this risk, dispute settlement is characterized by the African Union as a key element in providing security in today's AfCFTA environment. Moreover, Article 20 of the AfCFTA agreement today provides for the establishment of an AfCFTA dispute settlement mechanism with the inclusion of the protocol and rules and procedures on the settlement of disputes.
Before it comes to the dispute settlement mechanism, we've got what we call the online mechanism on reporting, monitoring of non-tariff barriers. We encourage the parties involved to see if they can have some understanding when they've been able to say, my colleague is really participating in the non-tariff barriers to disadvantage me. We encourage them to discuss. It's only after they fail to understand each other that it goes to the dispute settlement mechanism.
So with the protocols and instruments already in place, what are some of the concerns as the negotiations continue with AU member states on the specific policies and procedures of the now operational AfCFTA? The AfCFTA is founded upon the WTO framework, and just like its European, North American and Asian trade agreement counterparts, the rule of origin has proved a complex issue of determination for member states of the AfCFTA today. With globalization ubiquitous in many manufacturing processes across Africa, this means that many products are comprised of multi-global source components. This is just one of the many procedural dilemmas member states are now debating, but now have within their grasp. As the completed passport enabling goods to circulate duty-free across the continent is being currently defined.
One of the problems we face are technical barriers to trade. And these arise because member states have different standards when they look at a commodity, a product. So to overcome that, we are developing what we are calling the Made in Africa standard. We started that process by proposing to the member states, which they adopted, the African Quality Policy. And based on that, we are developing the criteria which will encompass the Made in Africa standard. And we hope to roll it out by the end of this year. So it will only be companies that meet the criteria who have the right to put the label Made in Africa.
They've already agreed over 90% of the rules of origin. What is left is sticky points on automobile parts in that sector, clothing and textile. Again, that's a sector that everyone has an interest in. Edible oils. So those are the 3 major sectors that remain. And I think that if they've come this far, they should be able, sooner or later, to be able to sort out those key sectors that remain. They're sensitive sectors, but they could be sorted out.
In addition, with many African Union member states at different levels of economic development, tariff negotiations and agreements are equally important in the now operational phase of the AfCFTA. In this regard, the operational AfCFTA, while now opening up the continent for immense trading and commerce-based opportunities, has also exposed some potential fault lines, which member states, supported by the AfCFTA Secretariat, are now engaging on to bolster specific integrational structures and procedures.
Let's just step back a bit and look at how partners are also viewing this. They're seeing a market of 1.3 billion people, of which about 400 million, that is more than the population of Europe, can be classified as middle class, a sizable market. They're seeing a continental GDP of almost 3 trillion today, which is small by global standards, but all the same is significant. And they're seeing an effort to ensure that this continent-wide market operates on the same rules everywhere.
We work with in the framework of AfCFTA. We work also on getting some of the concrete protocols of the AfCFTA on the ground, for example, to finalize the negotiations in priority areas when it comes to market access or rules of origin. But we also work on the trade and services protocol. And perhaps one of the, strongest support areas that we have is to make the free trade agreement most inclusive. So we try to also ensure that women, that youth, that local communities benefit from the free trade area and from the potential gains that the free trade agreement offers.
We have a shared vision with the African Union and the European Union related to the AfCFTA, because this is a game changer for the African continent, as a free trade area was for the European Union 60 years ago. So we have worked intensively both with our next door neighbor, the African Union Commission, and also the Secretariat in Ghana.
As envisioned under the AfCFTA, efforts are needed to implement service trade liberalization policies that foster services in trade and build growth. This needs to be done by adjusting trade regulations, reducing barriers, and promoting non-discriminatory measures. Secondly, a major effort is needed in establishing effective regional and global value chains to ensure supplies of equipment, medicines, and even vaccines for current or any future pandemics.
When you look at the vision that put together the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, it speaks to the third pillar of the new public health order: local manufacturing, local trading. The AfCFTA offers a huge opportunity for those who will be doing manufacturing on the continent, because the market of Africa is big, 1.5 billion and counting. So as AfCFTA continues to be successful, then local manufacturers of health products will have a bigger and bigger market to access and therefore be able to sell their products. In this way, we are very aligned with the AfCFTA.
Right now, 42% of intra-African trade is made up of manufactured goods. Compare that to the international level. 52% of international trade is made up of manufactured goods. We're not doing it very badly, but the message is very clear. In order to increase intra-African trade, we need to invest in manufactured goods as a basis for the growth of intra-African trade. So, working together with the African Development Bank, the African Export-Import Bank, and ourselves, our department and the department responsible for agriculture, we are developing agro parks across Africa, so that within 3 years, Africa can be self-sufficient in food, and that is going to be traded within the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Agenda 2063 and its flagship AfCFTA project, while both groundbreaking in their own right, also rest upon nearly 4 decades of progress on the road to Africa's integration. With the regional economic communities serving as the building blocks for full integration, the African Union recognizes the importance of the regional economic communities in ensuring integration across the continent. The AfCFTA seeks to work closely with the regional economic communities, which stipulates maintenance and, where possible, improvement of trade liberalization, forged by the best practices of the regional economic communities over the previous decades on the continent.
Africa is a massive continent, 30 million square miles. To cover all the issues that at the regions you do need the RECs to do what they have been doing, supporting trade growth in the regions, dealing with infrastructure issues, supporting the trade corridors and the infrastructure that's needed. I think what the AfCFTA does, it provides this continental framework and a continental market, but you're still going to need the RECs and build upon what they've been doing, because at the end of the day, much of the trade is going to take place at the regional level. You'll have some, of course, you'll have trade between countries in different regions. That's what the agreement, the AfCFTA does. But you would also have trade between neighbors, and this is how trade has always been carried out. Trade between neighbors since ancient times. One village trading with the next, the village closest to it. So you'd always have that, and I think you'd always have a role for the RECs.
The EFC is the fastest growing regional integration bloc, and in essence that implies it's far ahead and has put in place quite a number of instruments, policies, mechanisms that they could help accelerate the AfCFTA. With the EFC and the rules of origin in place already, that there's a lot of learning that could be taken from the EFC on how implementation has been rolled out from that front.
The AfCFTA is already creating a range of new business opportunities for entrepreneurs, women, and SMEs, with access to a much larger market for their goods and services, which will also facilitate their regional and ultimately international expansion for their enterprises. The AfCFTA is also enhancing women's opportunities through expansion of cross-border trade, integration into value chains, and participation in public procurement systems. Similarly, entrepreneurs and SMEs are also playing a crucial role, with SMEs accounting for more than 80% of Africa's employment. SMEs are now benefiting from skills development opportunities in order to develop, grow, and expand their businesses across Africa's borders. Financial institutions are key to this expansion and are also playing a critical role by broadening inclusiveness and implementation of the AfCFTA financing models through funding interventions that support young African women and small and medium-sized enterprises.
The SMEs are the starting point in business activity. Most of the big companies today were once upon a time small and medium enterprises. The key to their growth are a number of factors. One is capacity building. They should be able to keep business records so that they monitor the costs and the revenues that are coming in. And on the basis of that, they can come up with the financial statements, which can enable them to go to the financial institutions to have access to finance.
One of the mechanisms that we are working on is a Pan-African payments and settlement platform, which AfCFTA has agreed to provide the liquidity for the settlement and the payments, an initial amount of about $500 million that AfCFTA is providing, so that when a trader in Ghana trading under the AfCFTA has to transact under the AfCFTA with a counterparty in Kenya, that Ghanaian exporter will be able to transfer funds in local currency, in other words, Ghanaian cedi, to the counterparty in Kenya, who will receive the funds in Kenyan shillings. So we want to reduce the cost that is associated with converting local currency to the dollar in order to be able to transact under the AfCFTA.
The AfCFTA is an initiative that sees squarely within what the bank was created to do. In fact, the creation of the bank anticipated that day when the continent would create a continental free trade area. So because of that, the AfCFTA created an immense opportunity for the bank to once again demonstrate its relevance towards delivering the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want.
I think we've got to recognize that the AfCFTA is fundamentally growth and development strategy for the continent. I don't see an alternative to any other way forward for the continent other than opening up trade among its countries as a way also of opening up to the rest of the world, being a gateway to the rest of the world. I don't see how else it could happen. So since there's Plan B, there's only a Plan A. We better make sure that the Plan A works for the continent.
The process of economic integration essentially starts with a local dimension. Regions integrate with each other progressively, followed by individual countries, and ultimately a continent integrating with the rest of the world. Africa's initial integration pathway has been beset by historical impediments, multi-fragmented markets, and most recently, a raft of severe global shocks. All of which underscore the need for maintaining the momentum of our now operational AfCFTA, born out of a simple but revolutionary concept, that of an Africa that is united in its effort to dismantle physical and economic barriers, and in line with the Pan-African vision of Agenda 2063 of an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa.